So, Arsenal are through, and Kevin, you look a slightly relieved man.
Yes, I'm very relieved. There was a wobble, a big wobble. You know, going two goals behind, you know, was very difficult to watch. It's like Arsenal didn't get started. Then as soon as they went 2-0 down, they started to piece some momentum together. And, you know, Danny Welbeck had to pull them out of the fire, to be honest. But, you know, it weren't great. I don't think CSKA Moscow are a great side. But Arsenal struggled today.
Does it matter, though? Because they're through. That's the main thing. And also, is it difficult when, as we've perhaps seen over the last few nights, when you've got a fairly substantial lead, or you would have thought was a substantial lead, going there and not having the handbrake on slightly?
Yeah, it is difficult. Of course, I know about that. We know about that. But, you know, you're Arsenal going away. You've seen the wobbles of some of the biggest teams in Europe in the last 2 days. So that shouldn't steal you and make sure, you know, listen, we've got to make sure we get it right. Arsenal didn't start off that way, but, you know, luckily they come through and Welbeck and Ramsey, you know, helped save the day. Is
it all about the result for you, though, Mark?
I think it
regardless
is.
of the performance?
I mean, first and foremost, the first game was the telling game. I mean, 4-1, put himself in a great position. Yes, it wasn't great, like Kevin said. The game wasn't great tonight. Arsenal then went and did a job. I mean, it did look at one stage 2-0. It could go either way. And Arsenal at one stage didn't look like they were going to score a goal. Welbeck, great finish for the first one. But ultimately, it's about getting through to the next round. Forget about this game now. They move through. They're in the draw. And now they've still got a chance to get that elusive Champions League position.
How strong a chance do you think they have of winning the Europa League?
I mean, you know what? They're there on merit in terms of this stage of the competition. There are some very, very good teams left in the competition still now. So, you know, that's the worrying bit. You know, with look at Atletico Madrid, Marseille, you know, it's a tough competition still. So, you know, I don't know. I mean, Arsenal need to play a lot better than they did tonight. But because they're there, they have a chance.
I think Arsenal need to defend better. That's the key to going all the way in this competition.
But that's been a key for them all season. Not only in Europe, but it's also been in the league every last couple of seasons. They just haven't defended well.
Look, as you know, in the league, the defence has turned up 1 week and for 3 or 4 weeks haven't turned up. So that's been an Achilles heel. There's been a lot of flack flying around at the club about, you know, getting Steve Bold to do defending, etc., etc. It hasn't quite worked out that way. But in this competition, all the chips are in the middle. They have to defend better.
I'm just looking, if you're Salzburg, I mean, what a turnaround, by the way, for them. I mean, the fact that Roma fans will enjoy it even more with Lazio getting turned over the way that they have done. They've had a really good couple of days. But Salzburg, Atletico and Marseille, would they be looking to draw Arsenal?
Well, I think Salzburg definitely. I mean, we're probably looking at the teams that are left in the competition as probably the one team that, on the right occasion, like Kevin said, if they're not turning up on that particular day, they see a chance. They would have watched it. They'll get a chance to see this game later on, and they'll look at it and go, you know what? Arsenal are vulnerable at times in the game. You need to put it, you know, take it to them, put them under a lot of pressure, and particularly at home, you can cause them a lot of problems.
I think those teams would want Arsenal to get drawn with Atletico Madrid, because that gives them a great chance of getting in the actual final. Because Arsenal are the biggest clubs left in the Europa League. They are. So, yeah, we know they've got vulnerabilities, but attacking-wise and at the Emirates, they're very strong. So I think Arsenal would be a team to avoid.
I mean, let's be honest as well. That's all they've got left to play for this season, isn't it? It's of paramount importance to them now. Again,
all the chips are in the middle of the table. Arsene Wenger, he seems to have another life, doesn't he? You know, tonight at 2-0, you know, the knives were being sharpened probably, you know, by people. But they got over the line. As Mark rightly said, look, getting through is all important, but now it's going to get serious. It's going to get really serious. Are Arsenal going to be able to defend and keep that, especially away from home?
Yeah, the better opposition in there, aren't they? That's what it is. I mean, Atletico are a team that have had a lot of success in this competition in European football. So they are the team that nobody really wants to draw against. Marseille, you just don't know what you're going to get. Salzburg is probably the weakest one out of the 4 remaining sides. So Arsenal will be hoping to play against Salzburg and hope to avoid Atletico at all costs.
I mean, the outcomes are so hugely different. Next season, Arsenal could win a trophy and be in the Champions League. Win a European trophy, still a major European trophy, and be in the Champions League. Or they could finish 6th and nothing, which that could make the pressure surely too much for Arsene Wenger.
Well, that would be absolute disaster. Arsene Wenger, I think, is banking on this trophy to keep him in a job. I think there's been that much flack over the last 2 or 3 years that, you know, he really needs this trophy to keep him at the club.
Kevin, is there a big difference between Arsenal finishing 5th or 6th in terms of Arsene Wenger, not so much keeping his job, but that keeping, if you like, what the fans he does have on his side, on side?
I don't think so. I think, you know, for 20 years, Arsene Wenger's qualified for the Champions League and been in that top 4, and that was kind of like a trophy for him. But now they've regressed and they've fallen out of that slot. You know, this is serious. This competition's really serious for Arsene Wenger, and you know that kudos with the Wenger in brigade. You know, I think that crown is slipping a bit. I really do.
I think the only way that there is a positive for Arsene Wenger at the end of the season and the team is winning the Europa League. They're not assured to finish 6th. Let's be honest. I mean,
no,
you know,
well, they've 5 points ahead of Burnley, aren't
that's
they?
right, but they're still not assured. The way that Arsenal are, you just don't know what you're going to get week to week. I mean, you saw tonight, they weren't the Arsenal you expect to see. So there's no guarantee they're going to finish 6th. Yes, they could catch Chelsea in 5th. But the likelihood is at the moment, the only option, obviously, is to finish, to win the Europa League and to have any face at the end of the season to have won and class it as, I think, then as a reasonably successful season. Win the Europa League and finish in the Champions League position because of it.
The club's regressed so much. The club has regressed so much. To be able to... No team has a divine right to win trophies, but you have to be challenging. The fan base pays the most in Europe, probably the world, to go and watch their team play, and they want to be challenging at the top end of the league. It's regressed to 5th and 6th, talking about 5th and 6th, and the Europa League is the backdoor entry to the Champions League. That's hard to take for us Arsenal fans. It really is. So, you know, this trophy is the be-all and end-all for Arsenal.
You'd take that, though, wouldn't you? You'd take that route of winning the Europa League, even though it's the lesser competition of Europe, but winning a trophy and then get the Champions League position. I mean, Man United did it last season.
Mark, I'll take it, but I still won't be happy.
Yeah.
Of course, I'd smile if we won it, but
That's very good of you.
I'd smile if we won it.
But bear in mind, Arsenal didn't start out in the Champions League. They haven't dropped down into the Europa League. So if they win the competition they were in and that gets them a place in the Champions League, sure, that's got to be a great season, hasn't it?
Not great. No. Look, we're talking about Arsenal here. The Arsenal. You know, this is an institutional club.
But is that the past, though? Yes,
Yeah,
you won the FA Cup the last 3 years. You won it twice.
No, look, it's not the past. Arsenal are one of those institutional clubs that has power and mystique around it. Let's have it right now. It really is. Arsenal need to be up there challenging. Great season winning the Europa. Fantastic putting silver on the side. Yeah, everybody's happy, but that doesn't cloud what is going on at the club.
But even with all that history, Arsenal has, like any other club, there is no divine right. You've got to work at it the whole time. You've got to earn the right every single season. You start flat like everybody else.
Totally agree. But that's the regression. The club are regressing to the point where they're not even challenging anymore. So trying to get a backdoor into the Champions League, you know, is that the right way? We'll take it.
But is that going to kickstart Arsenal then? Is that going to
Is it
allow
gonna change
them then?
anything?
Is that going to bring players in? Players are going to want to come to Arsenal again because of that?
It's got to. It's got to, because as you saw at many of the games, the fans are voting with their feet. They're not even turning up for the games. And the club do come out with, yeah, but they're season ticket holders and, you know, we've got the money. But actually, no, you're losing out on match day revenue.
Well, can you remember the last time, other than the last sort of 2 seasons or so, that you ever go to now the Emirates or even Highbury where there are empty seats?
No.
No.
And that's why they're voting with their feet.
The other things as well, do you think there are some Arsenal fans who are intent on changing the manager, actually are not actually hoping for success in the Europa League? Perverse that sounds.
Well, to me, they're not Arsenal fans. They can't be Arsenal fans because the club winning is everything. Yeah, you could be disappointed that if they won the Europa League, Arsene Wenger stayed. I don't care. If he wins the Europa League, let him have one more season. The success of the football team and the football club is most important. I just want to see Arsene Wenger or whoever start making those moves and signing those players to bolster the team to challenge.
But go back to what you said, though. If they were to go through the back door and qualify for the Champions League, is that still regression? So then you're giving a manager an extra year, even though they've regressed.
Yeah, of course.
He's got a year. Sorry, he has got a year.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
No, but you're allowed to stay
contract.
for another year. You stay.
Yeah.
I mean, the way it is at the moment, if he ends the season now without winning a trophy, and obviously going to finish outside the top 4, what happens then?
Well, this is the million-dollar question. That's why even the Wenger in brigade, the crown of Arsene Wenger's head is falling a little bit, because being 6 and worrying about Burnley, and no disrespect to Burnley, obviously, but, you know, being 20 years in the top 4, they challenged for the title in the last 10, 12 years. I think it was once.
Do you honestly think, under any circumstances, wherever, even Arsenal finished 7th, do you honestly think that the current owners of Arsenal would sack Arsene Wenger? He's got a year left on his contract.
Well, the way it's going, obviously, after winning the FA Cup and them giving him a new 2-year contract, no, I can't see them sacking him.
I don't think so either. I think it'll be down to Arsene Wenger himself to decide whether or not he leaves the club or not. You know, I think if he were ever going to leave the club, it would have been the end of last season, after all the aggravation he received. You know, the response from the supporters through the course of the couple of seasons prior to that. Winning the FA Cup would have been his way of then going, you know what, I've won the Cup, there's the FA Cup, now's my opportunity to move along. But you can tell, you know, he's still got the hunger, still got the desire, the passion for it, and still honestly believes that he can take Arsenal forward.
But he can't. I don't think he can, because the regression started. If he could take Arsenal forward, Arsenal would still be in that bracket challenging at the top. But the regression's come now. Arsenal have turned into a cup team.
Yeah, but I think winning the Europa League and getting into the Champions League is progression over the last 2 seasons, 3 seasons. And I think you can't then get rid of a manager when he's done that.
Is it really progression, though? Because if they've, as Kevin says, if they've slipped down the table, and if they're certainly finishing lower than 5th...
Clubs go through ups and downs. You know, we look at Manchester United after Sir Alex Ferguson left. There were times where, you know, they didn't qualify for the Champions League for a couple, like 2-3 seasons, until they won the Europa League last season. Now look where they are. OK, they're, 14 points or 13 points behind Manchester City. However, they've still been better statistically, points on the board, than they have in the last
Goals
6 or 7,
games won.
everything they've done. So they have progressed. That has enabled them to progress, bring in bigger name players. So I think this could be a tipping point. It could be a point where they could get back on track.